time or what?
It depends. Which I haven't been live for a while because I just had the Corolla situation that I'm recovering from. So I haven't done
Oh,
one in a while.
God bless you.
Um, well,
okay.
anyway, so
It's
you
up to
don't
you.
believe that there's something called hell in the Bible? You don't hold to that?
No, I don't. Not anymore.
Okay, so
Nope.
what would you perceive? Okay, so what happens to someone when they die?
Go
Well,
to
the Old
sleep.
Testament tells you exactly what happens. It says uh, very plainly, your body goes back to the dust where it came from, and your soul goes back to the Father who gave it or who made it or whatever. And in the whole Old Testament, every single person who dies goes to sleep in Sheol, good, bad, and everything between. No matter who you are, you went to sleep. That's why they said rest in peace. You just
Okay,
sleep until uh,
now we'll actually agree.
because
We'll actually agree on that.
Yeah, that's the same belief I carry.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay, now
so
look at that.
you do not subscribe to hell either? Mhm.
Well, here's the thing: the
Pardon?
concept of hell that we were taught in church is incorrect. That if you're wicked, you'll die.
Right.
You'll be tortured by demons and fire forever. That's not true. However, in the Bible, we do
No,
see
I don't
hell
believe it at all.
talked about. Okay, now what hell is in the Bible is it means a condition of suffering that takes place on the physical earth that we live on.
Yes,
Say for
sir.
say for an
Are
example,
you talking about
have you ever heard somebody
exactly?
say that I'm catching hell? That's what hell is in the Bible. Or it can mean the grave.
Mhm.
When you die, just like I'll give you an example. King David said that he was going to go to hell. If you go to what
You
is
will
it,
not leave me.
Psalm
Yeah.
16:10, Psalm 16:10, I believe.
He said, you will
Um,
not leave your son in Sheol.
right. So hell can mean the grave or a condition of suffering that takes place on the physical earth. So it's not a place that people are punished
I
when they
agree,
die.
and
Now there is
it's funny you
here's where
said
we
that.
disagree. Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
and that's when Jesus said that they're going to take people out. Remember on the parable where they'll take them out. Well, there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth and all that. He's not talking about hell. He was talking about outside the gate where they were dumping sick people and bodies and everything. And the poor people were living out there. But that's also people take that as hell, and that wasn't hell
So do you
either.
believe
There's
that
a
there's
lot
going
of
to be
things that people think are hell. Go ahead.
okay? So do you believe that there's going to be like a fire judgment, lake of fire?
No.
Okay. So how do you deal
Well,
with the
see, I don't
scriptures
think
that
a
speak?
loving father would do that to his
Oh, okay.
child.
Well, let's first clarify something. The lake of fire is not hell because it says in Revelation
Yeah,
chapter 20, verse 14, and death and hell was cast into the lake of fire.
go
So
fire,
I
right.
don't believe that there's a hell where people burn, but there is a lake of fire judgment that is an actual fire that people will be put into, but that's not hell. So I have to ask,
All right.
based on the scriptures where we see about this lake of fire, what do you perceive that to be if it's not lake?
Okay, that's easy because I do not really subscribe to the Book of Revelation. I believe the Book of Revelation is patched together like a patch quilt of multiple things, but no, I don't.
But
I don't
didn't you
believe
guys
in
just
it.
go there
Those,
to try to prove something? No.
pardon?
You guys went to Revelation 18, right? And you were saying that's talking about 70 AD and the fall in
Right.
Jerusalem.
She said
But now you're
patchwork.
saying you guys don't really believe in it.
What she's saying is she doesn't believe that the whole framework, the way that she said it's a patchwork. Okay, those scriptures,
Yeah,
some of those
right,
scriptures are
right.
legitimate.
What
But
ones
I'm
are not?
saying that it's not prophecy. It's more of a history than prophecy.
Yeah,
What do
that's
you
what I
So
mean?
I'm
What's
not
the
saying
what's
that
the
nobody ever. I'm not saying nobody didn't write the Book of Revelation. I'm saying the one that wrote it was recording history rather than prophecy.
she doesn't subscribe to the current theology of Revelation that the church
what's the
says.
current theology?
Well, the
That
church
is
sells it
prophecy.
as that it's prophecy.
That's it's simple. The
It's
church says it's
future,
prophecy. I say it's recorded history.
past, it's
Well, I mean,
history.
I'd say there's certainly some things in it that have happened, but there's some in it that certainly have not.
Yeah.
We're back to 1970s. I mean, not saying 1970s, but to the
So,
70s.
okay, so if it was all fulfilled, so when it speaks about Christ actually setting up an actual physical empire of gold, that's not literal. That's not going to happen, or has it already happened?
Of course, it hasn't already
Uh,
happened, or we wouldn't be having the conversation.
Okay, so you agree that's going to happen in the future?
No, I didn't say that.
that what
I
will
said
happen?
that
I didn't
hasn't
hear.
happened.
I
Okay.
couldn't hear what he
I said
said.
that hasn't
What did he say?
happened. Go ahead.
What's going to happen? I
Okay,
couldn't hear him.
what I said. Okay, what I said is, if you guys believe that it all already happened, so then I ask, what about when it speaks about Christ setting up an actual empire of gold on the earth,
No, I don't believe
right?
that at all. I
So,
think
uh,
that's fiction in there. I believe it's fiction.
so, so
Yeah.
when we read in the Old Testament about the kingdom of God being set up on earth, that's not literal either.
No, that is
No,
literal
yeah, I
because
believe
the
it's a
kingdom of
literal.
God, it means it is just like in the Lord's prayer. It'll be in heaven as it is on earth. God will always be in His kingdom in heaven.
Well, and
Earth
that'll
will be a
be a
mere
point of
image of
contention.
heaven.
that would be a point of contention, because we're of the belief that the kingdom of heaven in Revelation is going to be built on the actual earth itself.
Yeah, I don't
That'll
believe
be
that anymore at all. No,
okay.
not at
So
all.
you believe that the heaven's like a dimension that people go to?
No,
Nope.
no. Like I just said, God's in the Old Testament. God's plan is to make the heaven, make Earth
Make Earth
just like
heaven.
heaven. Make Earth just like heaven.
You're already there.
Wait, I'm already in heaven.
Historically, yeah, historically.
Well,
based
actually,
on-
this is no, stop, because this is the first heaven. First
yeah,
heaven.
historically, that's why I
flies
say in the
and
beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Right. hold
And
on.
is a conjunction. Okay, if you know English, and is a conjunction, it means cats and dogs. What were they?
Right.
They were both together, animals.
Just to answer his question though.
Just so I know,
Earth,
is there actually going to be a kingdom of heaven one day that people are living in? Yes or no?
not
You're
well.
talking about the
If
spirit.
you guys just stop and let me list,
Go ahead.
just finish, okay? I said the earth is the first heaven.
I know.
Where the birds fly is the second heaven. God is in the third heavens.
Oh, heaven.
So yes, this earth has always been heaven. It'll start and it'll end heaven. Yes, it's the first heavens.
He walked with Adam and Eve.
Where the
Okay,
where the
wherever
birds
God's
fly,
at too.
where the birds fly is the second heaven. The third heaven's where God is.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, if you want, but eventually, what God's plan is in the Old Testament is to someday have God's kingdom on earth just like it is in heaven. Okay, so there'll be no killing,
Sinless.
there'll be no violence, there'll be no war. Nobody will have to debate each other on what the Bible means, be like we're doing now. Okay, when the Messiah comes, nobody will ever debate each other about the Bible again. Has that happened? No.
Wait a second. Where does it say when he comes that's going to happen?
The Messiah will teach everybody, and
So you
nobody
want
will have to.
chapter
No,
and
no,
verse?
I'll tell you what it is.
Covenant, right?
It says.
Chapter and verse.
It says. I'll tell you what it is if you give me a second.
I know where you're going. You're going to either Jeremiah 31 or what is that? Hebrews the 8th chapter, right?
Definitely not Hebrews.
Are you talking about the new covenant?
No, there is no. Well, no.
Okay, well I'm intrigued. Show me where you're talking about.
All right. Now I just lost track of what we were even talking about. I was trying to pull it up, but everybody's arguing too much.
Okay, you were talking. You were saying something along the lines that when the Messiah comes, nobody's going to be fighting. Nobody's going to.
Okay, let me pull it up now. Now, don't distract me. What it's going to say is something like, and I'll pull it up. But give me a second. I keep getting interrupted, and it's really annoying. Now, I'm not saying you're annoying. Just everybody keeps talking, and it's just like there's nobody's getting any points across. It'll say something like, and I'll look it up. Give me a second. But it's going to say something like, a neighbor will not have to grab the coat to the other neighbor, ask him. Yeah, no, that's a different one. That's another one. That's when the people will grab the coat of a Jew and say, "I know you know the truth." That's another one. But no, the one I'm talking about is that neighbor will not have to ask neighbor what the Bible means or whatever they said. Here, on a second. Let's see. A second. Let me search it. Give me just a second.
Now the places I've heard this at in the Bible is in two places, either Hebrews the 8th chapter or Jeremiah the 31st chapter. And if it's not any of those, then I'm not sure. Shay, just while she's looking for that, you wouldn't consider yourself to be a preterist, right?
No, I'm non-denominational and I don't subscribe to any of the classical theologies.
Okay,
just to put it bluntly, I don't subscribe to any of the classical theologies.
Are you?
What I mean is the common ones, the church ones.
Okay, but a preterist is not a church idea.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. When I said that earlier, I'm not a premillennialist. I'm not a preterist. I'm not a Baptist. I'm not a Mormon. I am not a Catholic. I am none of the above, and I don't check any of their boxes. I don't subscribe to half of the theologies that are commonly taught.
Okay, but if somebody was to come up to you and ask you, what do you believe? How would you define it to them if you can't use any of these terms?
I'm following the way and to the best of my ability to be obedient to God as I understand him to be a loving father and a creator. And I am here on his bidding, not my own.
Okay, so it'd be fair to call you a Christian, right?
No, not by
what is it? What is it,
no.
Christian? What is it?
No, Paulinist. You're talking about a Paulinist. I'm not a Paulinist.
What do you, the word Christian means a follower of Christ. That's what the word means.
Right. And I told you that. I said a follower of the way. If I didn't say that, then excuse me. That's what I said. I think Jesus was the shepherd that he said he was. Okay, that he was just like Ezekiel, just like Isaiah. He was a prophet who came and said, "Repent, turn from your sins, turn from your wicked ways, return to the old ways, return to God. You're doing it your way, and your way is not His way." And that's my whole thing. My beef with the church and organized religion now is because they want you to follow a man and follow all of these traditions that are not God's traditions. And
just out of curiosity, what traditions are they teaching people to follow? That I would imagine they'd say because Christ did, right? But what traditions did Christ teach to follow that God wasn't with?
No, you're conflating what I'm saying, but with the thing that Jesus came to show the way. Yeah, okay, I said that. I said he's teaching
the first Christians were called followers of the way. They're also called the circumcised something or whatever, but they're called followers of the way because actually Paul even said the word Christian was
it's a slang, it's an insult. Yeah.
Paul even said, don't feel bad if they call you a Christian. I mean, Christian was kind of an insult back then, but
what you're asking me is, what do I think that am I a follower of Jesus? I'm a follower of Jesus' teachings. See, I don't think that he died on the cross for my sins. That's what you want to know.
Just so I understand. So you believe in some of the teachings of Christ, but then when we read about when he died on the cross, that part.
I'll answer real quick. Let me answer real quick. I believe in the teachings of Jesus that matches up with the Old Testament. Yeah, I do.
What does he teach that does not add up to the Old Testament?
Probably not a lot, but he does kind of a little bit tweak the laws of Moses. I'm not sure if he's correcting the Pharisees and the Sadducees, or if he's trying to change the laws of Moses, like the thing about divorce, that you can only divorce somebody in the case of adultery, and that's not what the whole Old Testament says at all. Because what if you're married to somebody and they start worshiping Satan and build altars in the living room and all that? You got to stay married to them because he didn't cheat on you, and it don't make no sense. I mean,
let me back up. Well, I'm not a Christian because I follow Jesus's teachings, and Jesus didn't come to create a new religion.
Yeah, no, he did not. No, everything he did.
Okay, because if he had, then he deserved to die on the cross for blasphemy. His murder was justified.
Well, it wasn't even blasphemy. They said he was in Mark. They said he was jealous, but the Romans put him to death for the insurrection, and that's what.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about, Kathy. You know what I'm talking about. You know that he was the Son of God.
If he
had claimed deity
to be God, then yes, he would have been put to death for blasphemy. If he had claimed for he was God, which he never did.
And if you think he was God, then his death on the cross was justified by definition.
Exactly. Yep. Had he said that, then it would have been justified.
But he never said that. He never said he was God.
Because God said, I'm your only God. There's no savior but me.
Yeah, I am God. I am one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
there's no savior, none.
Okay, now nobody argued that there's more than one Most High God. That nobody came on here and tried to.
You can't have, my man. But see, you're throwing a loophole in there, right? One Most High God.
There's only one God. Period. There's false gods, but there's only one real God, true God.
Okay, but how do you deal with when it says that ye are gods?
Man, I'm getting tired.
I don't. Where does it say that in Psalms?
Yeah, it's a psalm, and it's taken so out of context, man. That's saying we are his. If a cat has a cat, what is it?
Right. So if I said, Nathan, if your dad's name is Bob, I'd say, oh, you're Bob's. You're Bob. All of you are Bob's, and all your brothers and sisters say, oh wow, you're all Bob's. Doesn't mean you're actually Bob. No, it means it's possession. Like, oh, you all belong to Bob. You know what I'm saying? So. It's more of a possession thing, I think, is what Jay's trying to say. But and if something in Psalms disagreed with like a prophet or something that I believed hold true, I would definitely
default to the Old Testament, not Psalms.
I would default to one of the prophets or something that I know is true over over that. So
because the Psalms were songs.
That's right, Sandra. If you were married to somebody that's beating the crap out of you and being horrible to the kids or whatever, no, God doesn't expect you to be married to that person.
Can't divorce them unless they cheat.
Right. And what if they start? As a matter of fact, hold the horses. Remember, in the Old Testament, God made them men go, the Hebrews go and divorce them women because they had no business marrying them because they were whatever, the parasites, Jebusites, whatever.
Yeah, the sites.
Jebusites, whatever. Remember, he said, "Go divorce them because you weren't supposed to marry out of your belief."
In the first place, right? He made them divorce them because
they were divorcing. They could divorce whatever you want in the Old Testament. You just had a right to do it. But in the New Testament, all of a sudden, you can't get divorced. And I mean, that don't make no sense. No sense. Only adultery. I mean, how does that make any sense? So no, I believe
what is adultery?
Well,
we're talking about fornication.
No, we're talking about when you commit to somebody, because there really was no marriage in the Old Testament. Two people committed to each other. You made it public, and that was your marriage or whatever. There really wasn't a marriage. There was maybe a celebration, but there wasn't marriage. And then if one person didn't want to be with the other anymore, you had to write her a certificate of divorce. So, when she goes and remarries, and hooks up with her next mate, and two people, when she goes and mates with another man, and they are now married, the first husband can't come back and point and say she's an adulteress, and that's why they got the certificate of divorce. Because you could just walk up and say, "Hey, remember everybody, we publicly committed." Nope, you had to have a certificate of divorce, so she cannot. Because death, it was a death penalty. Adultery was death penalty. It was capital crime, and so nobody's going to be put to death. So that's why the certificate of divorce. But no, you could get divorced, but not in the New Testament, which doesn't make no sense. So when he changes the laws of Moses, no, I don't subscribe to that Jesus teachings with that.
I'd say taking it out of context. I would say it's being taken out of context.
What part?
Well, first of all, we have a misconception about the Bible. For one, what is adultery?
How do we? Hold on, man. You're making a lot of assumptions right there, buddy.
Yeah, no, don't say that. I have a misconception. Well, tell me what I'm misconceived
about. Okay,
I'm gonna cut you off right there. I don't even think that you're qualified as a teacher now.
Okay, so Chi, if that's so, can you answer the question?
Man, I'm getting tired, man. I'm really getting tired. What's your point?
So now you can't answer it. If that's so, can you answer the question?
Man, I'm getting tired, man. I'm really getting tired. What's your point?
So now you can't answer it.
No, I'm really getting tired of going in circles with you, bro.
Okay, Chi. I asked in the Bible, what is adultery? That's what I asked.
Do you want I said it is either physical for cheating, or are you talking about a spiritual definition? What do you want? What do you want?
In the context of a man and woman being married.
Well, then it is a physical thing. There's no question.
Have sex outside the marriage.
Yeah, you cheated.
So it would be considered cheating if a man was to lay with another woman other than his wife.
Yes.
Yes, by definition.
Without her knowing. Because the whole thing is, I mean, that's why that's why he refers to us as a marriage. Okay, it's a marriage. And this is
by definition.
And you are a whore. The church was a whore if they cheat. You know what I mean? That's what. Well,
Israel was a whore. Israel bowed down to other gods. So there's your cheating.
Yeah. There's your adultery right there.
Hold on a second. You have to be able to allow me to respond too, because I somewhat disagree with the answer. A man in the Bible, a man can have more than one wife, but that's an entirely different conversation. Now, I want to ask you this: if you go to Leviticus chapter 20,
okay, let's put this into reality.
10.
Reality. Back up for a minute. A man in the Bible can have more than one wife. Okay.
It depends who you ask in the Bible. Depends who you ask.
How many different lands?
We're supposed to cling to each other, one man, one wife. But
hang on a second. I wasn't done with the adultery yet.
Okay.
I was about to read Leviticus chapter 20, verse 10. It says, "And the man that commits adultery with another man's wife, even he that committed adultery, and his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and adulteress, shall surely be put to death." But it's telling us what committing adultery is here. And the answer is, if a man sleeps with another man's wife, that's considered to be adultery.
Yeah. And why were we going around in circles about it? Because that's what I said and what she said.
Okay. Well, he's saying there's a loophole there. The married man can go get a single woman and have sex with her, but not a married man. It's only bad if he gets not a married man.
Now, hold on a second. What I said was that a man can have more than one wife. That's all I said.
Well, who says that?
I mean, that's in the Bible. What about?
Well, we've also said
where in the Bible does it say? Where in the Bible does it say a man can have more than one wife?
It just says it happened. It doesn't mean that God made it that way.
That's right.
Hang on.
Because look at Solomon.
But where does it say that you can have more than one wife? Because there's different.
Chapter and verse. I'd like to have chapter and verse.
Give me a second.
People did, but it didn't turn out very well.
Okay, go ahead and grab the book of Exodus chapter 21, start at 10.
I'm following you. You read
read
it.
it.
Read
But
it. Read it.
hold on a second. I can read, but I'm reading off of an app, so sometimes it will cut me off.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But just before you read, I have to understand something. So your position is you perceive that it's a sin to have more than one wife, correct?
I don't know if it's a sin or not. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
God's
Subject
plan.
covenant.
I don't know if it is or not.
Let me
I'm just
answer.
saying it's not God's plan.
Let me answer it by yes. I think it's a sin because you make a covenant.
It's supposed
A
to be
covenant.
a man and a
people-
woman are supposed to leave their parents and join together as one.
And two become one. Yes, it's a sin if you have sex
Yeah.
with another woman while you're with a
I think
married.
so too.
And I don't care if you're in America or you're in Israel.
Yeah, because there's people that had more than one wife, but it never worked out good. Never.
Now, regardless if it works out well for them or not, the question is it a sin? And if it is not a sin, then we can't condemn somebody who does it. Because the
I'm
Bible
not
says,
trying to condemn
hold on
anybody.
a second. Hold on a second. Because if you go to Romans chapter 4, verse 15, it says, where there is no law, there is no transgression.
Oh,
So if
I
there's
do
no
not.
law
Yeah.
that says that you can't have more than one wife, then we can't say that someone's in sin if they were to do that.
Well, yeah.
Well-
Well, you can just say that because I don't subscribe to anything Paul says. Paul came
Uh-uh.
with a new religion, and no, I don't subscribe to one thing. He's got a
I
new
revealed
religion.
that earlier.
Yeah. Paul's got a totally new religion. That's
Okay,
why.
so
That's
Kathy,
why
what is sin? What is sin?
transgression of the law.
Transgression of the law.
Where does it say that?
It's one of the short prophets. Transgression of the law. It's in Moses says it. I mean, I don't know chapter and verse right now, but
Kathy, do you know?
what's the prize?
Did you subscribe to 1 John chapter 3, verse 4? Do you believe in that?
First
What's the
John.
prize for me answering all these questions? I mean, like, where you're
I mean, there is no prize. I'm just seeing if you know what you're talking about.
why? Why does it matter what my opinion is? Because why? I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
Teacher,
first of all, I didn't even come up here to talk to you in particular. I was coming up to talk to
but
Kathy.
you are talking to me. But you are, and you have been talking to me. So let's not change the subject.
Are you on here having a conversation with me? Yes or no? So obviously, of course, I'm engaging with you.
Yes, I am. But but what you keep trying to do is force your belief to be a fact, and everybody's not going to subscribe to what you believe, and you've made assumptions that your case is closed. You're right, and we're wrong.
Okay, now, if you're going to say that, can you give me an example of what subject I said that about?
Let's go back to the very first question you asked. You said, did we think the end times happened in 70 AD or whatever? Right.
What we were having a conversation about was you guys' position was that Mystery Babylon was Jerusalem.
Okay, thank you.
Disagreed. So we were having a conversation about why we.
Thank you. So we're having a conversation, and you said you weren't talking to me; you were talking to Kathy. You've been talking to me and talking to Kathy, and we were being very hospitable. And I'm just standing firm that I don't think that everybody's got the answers and everybody's got their own opinion.
Right. I do have to say though, okay, so yeah, 1 John 3:4 says transgression law, but it just means breaking God's laws, his commandments. Okay, but here,
I'm saying,
Deuteronomy 9:7 and Joshua 1:18, they describe it as rebellion against God, which is the same thing, rebellion.
Witchcraft.
Well, it's just rebelling against God.
No, witchcraft is rebellion too. That's the definition of rebellion.
Well, it's breaking God's commandments. I mean, all through the whole Bible, when does God get mad? When you break his laws. I mean,
okay, I agree. Okay, now I agree on that. But the only reason I brought this up is because you guys were saying you don't necessarily subscribe to the New Testament, correct?
Not all of it.
Sorry, I was reading something. What?
Okay, is that scripture I quoted, 1 John 3:4, is that scripture correct or is that incorrect because it's in the New Testament?
Well, what he's doing is repeating this here. I'll just read it real quick. What he's doing is he's referring to something in Joshua 1:18. Whoever rebels against your commandments and disobeys your words, whatever you command him, shall be put to death. Only strong and courageous. I mean, that just shows you right there. Whoever rebels against his commandments and disobeys his words.
Hold on a second. That's a good question. This is actually a very good question. Going by your theology, right? Because you were telling me that when a person dies, basically they're asleep. So let's say somebody's a murderer and they get away with it and they die. Is there punishment for that person, or are they set free?
Well, who said they got away with it?
Well, but I'm asking you what happens to that person. Say for an example, if they live their life after they commit a murder and they don't get caught for it, right? So here on the earth they don't get punished
Right,
for
right.
that murder, right? And they die. I'm asking
hmm
you what would happen to that person because you
Who
said
said
if
he
they
didn't? But who said he didn't get punished? He might
okay,
escape the law in man's judgment, but he didn't escape. I believe judgment's here on earth. When you do something, judgment comes against you. It's all over the Old Testament. Judgment is here
now,
now.
now now I didn't disagree with that, but I'm simply asking you: is if somebody dies, is God going to punish them, or is there any type of
I think
punishment
he
that
already
happens?
has. I think while you're on earth, you're
You
punished.
lose your blessings.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you sin, which murder, adultery, whatever, I think people get punished here while you're on earth.
Okay, well let's make this simple. Let's say somebody's a rich man and they can pay people to commit heinous crimes for them, right?
hmm
And they live a life of luxury and then they pass away. So
Their
what's
last
God
name's
gonna do with that?
Gates.
Is there a judgment or punishment for that person, or what happened?
I well, I believe like why we might not see the suffering. Say like Bill Gates, like he said, like somebody like that who's responsible for all kinds of heinous things, or whoever you want to say, who's saying he's not getting punishment and judgment right now? We don't know what's going on behind his door. He could have filled with boils all over his body, and I mean, who knows? He could be sick. He's all
Tormented by
horrible things.
demons.
He could be getting divorced. Well, he did get divorced. His whole life he could be tormented by demons, like he said. We have no idea what's going on behind in his life.
He's an alcoholic.
Who's
And
saying it's not getting punished right now?
yeah, he could be an alcoholic. He could be a drug addict. He could have all kinds of, because he can afford it, dude. He can afford
Okay,
it.
okay, but let's just make this simple. If somebody dies and they commit these crimes, God's not going to punish that person after their death, right?
After life, after death, what's the point after you die to punish you?
I'm simply asking you a question on
What's
that.
the answer to you?
I'm asking you, is there a punishment for these people when they die, or does God just not do
I
anything?
just said no. I don't believe it's after death. What's the point after death to punish you?
Well, I mean, I believe in something called reincarnation. So our position is that, say for an example,
Oh,
if
yeah,
you
okay,
were
I get it. I get it.
just
You're
let me
talking
just let
about
me
the
finish real quick.
real definition of karma, where your next life you're going to get paid back for what you did here. Say if you're a
Yeah.
serial killer
It
there,
can
maybe
happen
you'll
that way.
get to. Yeah, I get that, and I might even subscribe a little bit to that. You know what I mean? I have even talked about it on here. I'm open to the reincarnation. I know Christians just cringe about that. Oh,
Yeah.
reincarnation. But I'm open to discussing that at all because that would make a lot of sense. I just said the other day. How do you think God knew you from the foundations of the earth? Maybe you've been recycling. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that would make sense to me for the kingdom of God because you recycle, he refines like gold in the fire, and eventually he's got some good people after cycling over and over and over. I mean, and those
Wait,
are the people who
but
would
we're
be
still
on
left with
God's
a
kingdom
problem.
on earth, huh?
But we're still left with a problem. Is
Hmm.
if even if he does get all these good people, how are they going to go to the kingdom of heaven if you're saying that that's not here? Do they go there when they die, like to where God's living and
The
dwelling?
bad people or the good people? I
Let's
think if
just, for
somebody's
argument's
not,
sake, just say the
I
good
think
people.
if somebody's not, I don't know how it works, but I think just recycle, and get you better and better each time. You'll pay maybe you do pay for last. Maybe if you're mean to animals and stuff, maybe I don't know. Animals will be mean to you. I don't know. It's just like I said, like your friend, like Jay said.
Okay.
I don't believe you come back as a man comes back as a bird or whatever. I think man comes back as man, woman comes back as woman, all that. If it is reincarnation, I don't know. There's so many other people, religions, everybody else around the world. Lots of religions believe in reincarnation and all
Okay.
that.
Okay. Now you said something that sparked my curiosity earlier. You
Mhm.
said you don't believe in something called a rapture. And Shai,
No.
you believe in the same thing?
Yeah, I don't believe the rapture theory at all. I don't subscribe
Okay.
to it at all. I'm like
Okay.
Kathy. I'm on the fence about reincarnation. I'll put it like that. I'm on the fence. But my core belief is that right now that we go once around the ride and we're going to be back when he fixes it back, as far as as far as any type of second life, the second coming, whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean? That whole thing, that it will be in the flesh. It's not going to be just ghost body spirit. You know what I mean? I don't think it's just going to be, and I'm not going to be, an angel. I'm going to be still a man.
Okay. Now, what do you think the rapture is? Because if you
I know
if you
exactly
don't
what it
believe
is.
in it,
It was a
okay.
theology that was created in the
Okay, but
1800s.
hold
It's a
on a
New
second.
Testament. It's a New
All I'm
Testament
asking,
thing.
all I'm asking is, I know you don't believe in it, but in order to not believe in something, you have to first know
Yeah,
what that
it was
thing is.
created in the 1800s or 1500s. I mean, no, 1800s. That's when King James Bible was 1500s. But anyway, the whole the little verse of Paul's about rising and meeting him in the air. That whole verse was turned into a religion, to answer your
What about,
question.
well, what about when Christ talks about it?
Well, in verse, and I'm not asking, I'm being smart. I'm saying, give me the context of what does he say?
Just go ahead and go Matthew 24, start at verse 29 on that.
Well, I mean, just what's he say? What's he say? Just give me the short on it. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, I'll paraphrase. He says that the Son of Man is going to return. He's going to send his angels to gather together the elect wherever they're scattered among the world, and everyone's going to be called up together. So that's not a rapture.
No,
I guess it's about definition. What you're saying, yeah, I wouldn't argue with you. That could be your rapture right there. Yeah, I can see that. But
okay,
I don't think
if that's what Christ is saying, so didn't you say you believe in what Christ told?
But I don't think that. That's why I wasn't finished. But I don't think that is a tenet of the Old Testament. To default back to it, it doesn't line. Even if what he says, they say he said, doesn't line up with the Old Testament, I don't think it's right.
Okay, now how does it not line up with the Old Testament?
Because it makes him the Son of God, only back to the hybrid thing, being a half God, where
the topic in question is about the rapture. So I was asking
right. And who's coming? It's him coming back. It's talking about Jesus coming back.
Doesn't the rapture have to do with the people who are alive getting caught up into the air? I mean, no, I don't believe in that at all.
The people who are alive and then the people who passed on will all be resurrected.
Right from the graves is what I know the verse.
Okay, so people who are alive are getting sucked up in the air. No, I don't believe that.
No, it's because I said that like earlier.
It's not necessarily sucked up into the air, though.
Well, snatched away.
You're talking about going from this physical world.
They'll be taken away in what people call UFOs. What we perceive those.
You're talking about leaving this physical world going into a spiritual body, right? Right?
No.
That's not what you believe in the rapture is.
Hold on a second. There's a couple different viewpoints. The Christian church. Just give me a second, brother. The Christian church, they believe in a rapture, but their concept of the rapture is different from what the Bible teaches. So is the rapture concept in the Bible? Yes, but there's a difference from what the modern Christianity believes versus what the Bible teaches. Like, I'll give you an example. The Bible speaks about the chariots coming and picking up people. I'd say that the chariots are what the world calls UFOs, but that's a different conversation for another time.
Yes, ma'am. Kathy?
Go ahead.
Kathy, were you?
Pinch said, Pinch reminded everybody, hey, Pinch, about Jeremiah 8:8, a reminder about the lying pen of the scribes. We've been manipulated and lied to.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, Pinch, good to hear from you, brother.
Good to see you tonight, Pinch.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's what I've been trying to say, and I didn't have the verse. And thank you, Pinch, and thank you, Kathy. There's a lot of, I said earlier, my own way was saying, read between the lies. There's lies written in, and there's verses taken out of context. That's what I was saying about Revelation.
One thing we really got to remember to keep doing is remember, the whole Bible tells you about God's law. His rule is there's got to be 2 or 3 witnesses in order to be the truth. That's why I said when 2 or 3 are gathered in his name, there he is. There's God. There's the truth. Okay, when I see something where there's only one thing in the whole Bible that kind of like stuff Paul says, okay, like he'll say, okay, we don't need the Sabbath anymore. Well, like there's hundreds of sentences in there, but you know what I mean, lots of places all over where God said you have to have the Sabbath from now on, all that. Paul says one thing like, no, we don't need the Sabbath, and everybody's ready to fold up the Sabbath. Well, that's no. You always look for 2 or 3 witnesses. So if I see something that's way off, and I can't find 2 or 3 other scriptures to coincide.
Bad echo coming through.
Pardon?
From Chay's side, there's a bad echo. You might have the volume up.
I held it too close to my face. I'm sorry.
No.
That's all right. That's all right. But not to move the goalpost though. Going back to the rapture, if my understanding is incorrect, could you enlighten me as to what it means? The verse I quoted in question, Matthew 24, starting at 29 on down. Can you tell me?
I mean, I don't subscribe to the end time, so I whether it's being raptured or whatever, I just don't subscribe to it. I don't see. I actually have a question. Where in the Old Testament does it say anything about a rapture?
About rapture? Well, the word rapture is not used in the Bible.
I know that. I understand. But your concept of the rapture, where's the concept of the rapture in the Old Testament?
I mean, I'd have to look for a couple precepts, but we see about how the Lord is going to return and to save people and to also bring damnation upon certain people. So there's certainly a couple precepts we could quote about, as people call it, the day of the Lord. And that would correlate back to this rapture event. So, say for an example, what is it? Amos 5:18, Isaiah the 19th chapter, Isaiah 66. Jeremiah the 50th chapter. I mean, there's a couple places we could go to, but it's not as layered out and as clear as it is in the New Testament.
And I mean, can you just read some of the scriptures? I mean, instead of, just.
Okay, well, I'll
quoting
make it clear. It's
Yeah.
when we talk about the rapture, it's more so clear in the New Testament.
Well, that's obvious, but I mean, tell me in the Old Testament where it prophesies about a rapture,
Or prophesies
a future
about.
rapture.
The best I could give you is when we read about the second coming of Christ, we see him coming with his chariots. Now, those are what the people who are raptured are beamed up into.
Wait a
is
minute,
those
but
chariots.
the Old
You're-
Testament doesn't
Where-
talk
yeah,
about the
where-
second coming of Christ. There's
Where-
nothing in the
where-
Old
You went back to the
Testament
New
about second coming
Testament.
of
She
Christ.
said, "Where in the Old Testament? Where in the
Yeah.
Old Testament?" Was the question.
Yeah, where's there
Isaiah,
rapture in the Old Testament?
Isaiah 66.
Isaiah 62?
6.
66.
Isaiah 66, what verse?
15 on down. And
Yeah,
here's
let
where
me just
here's where the disagreement is. I perceive this is talking about the rapture because here's what you have to understand. There's so many obstacles here because you guys are brought up with a false concept of the rapture, so it's different from what I'm saying.
No,
The rapture-
stop there.
Just let me clarify.
You make
I
a bunch
wasn't
of
brought up
assumptions,
with
bro.
nothing, dude. I went to a Lutheran church. We never heard about rapture. I didn't hear about rapture till 2016 when I came on YouTube. So don't tell me I grew up and knowing about rapture.
Okay. So Kathy, tell me what they teach about the rapture. They tell me what.
I didn't hear nothing. Never even heard about a rapture till I came on 2016.
Okay. So I'm saying, regardless if that's the case, you tell me what they taught you about.
I never. For the third time, I never heard about a rapture in my life.
Okay,
In the
Kathy.
Lutheran church.
Okay, Kathy. You know about a rapture today, though, right? You could agree with me on that. You know about the concept.
Yeah,
right?
I learned. Yeah, when I
Okay.
came on YouTube, that's where I heard about it.
Okay. Now, can you tell me what those people were talking about it? Because
Yeah,
they had
Matthew
24, those who are alive and remain. What?
I said it's been real and it's been fun. It ain't been real fun.
24, those who are alive and remain. What?
I said it's been real and it's been fun. It ain't been real fun. I'm joking, but I'm gonna let it be a night for me. I'm gonna let y'all have the rest of this.
All right, Jay.
I love you so much, Kathy.
I'll be dropping food anyway, but we'll go for a couple more minutes.
Okay, it was nice to meet you, Nathan, and I'll catch up with y'all later.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
All right.
Well,
So, Kathy, go ahead.
right. But what I'm taught when I came on YouTube about the rapture is they turn Matthew 24. Those are who alive and remain will be caught up to be in the clouds or whatever. That's what I thought. During the tribulation, there will be a time where Jesus returns, and somehow people who are alive will be caught up in the air. It's exactly what it says. And I believed it. I thought, oh, Jesus coming back, we'll just be caught up in the air. I don't know. Is that a tornado? Well, I believe that who's the one that went up in the whirlwind or whatever?
Elijah.
Yeah,
Or-
I believe that was like a tornado.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, anyway, in response to that, this is why I said it goes back to a misconception, because my view of the rapture is this happens on the day of the Lord. When Christ returns and brings destruction to the world, he's going to rapture together his believers. But the Christian church, they teach that there's going to be, like, say, for an example, they say the rapture could happen tonight in the middle of the night. People disappear, and then, there's a tribulation
Right.
period. That's how we would see different. So when I take you to these places in the Old Testament where we see the day of the Lord, I'm using that to prove the rapture because I perceive that the rapture happens when that event takes place. So again,
but you're just okay. So people who believe in the rapture, you're either pre-trib rapture, post-trib rapture, or in the middle of the rapture for tribulation, right? Like some believe it's before the tribulation, some believe it's the rapture is during the tribulation, some believe it's after. I don't
just
believe.
For the sake of conversation, I'll say post.
Okay, well, I don't have any. I have no choice because I don't believe in the rapture, so I don't pick anything. Before, I used to think it was like after the tribulation, because it says after the tribulation of those days, right? So I believed it was after the I used to be a post-trib rapture, kind of pre-trib when I heard about it, then mid-trib, then post-trib. It just the more I learned, it's just whatever. But I don't subscribe to the rapture, period, because it's not in the Old Testament. The day of the Lord is in the Old Testament, but not the rapture.
Okay, so if we read about the day of the Lord in the Old Testament, and then I can
hmm
show you that also in the New Testament, would you discredit the New Testament speaking about it?
I'm sorry, I don't get your question.
Okay, if we read about the day of the Lord in the Old Testament, but then
Uh-huh.
we can also read about it in the New Testament, would you still disregard those scriptures from the New Testament?
If they don't align with the Old Testament day of the Lord, yeah, I would disregard it. If it lines up with the Old Testament day of the Lord, then I would give it credibility. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Now the question for you is: does the day of the Lord in the New Testament line up with the Old Testament?
not at all.
Okay, can
Not
you
at all.
demonstrate? Can you demonstrate?
Yes,
Give me two examples.
the day of the Lord in the Old Testament is not after a big old tribulation where people are murdered and starving and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't happen like that. The day of the Lord is after the well, that's kind of when the Messiah comes and all that. And the Messiah, I'd have to go. I'd have to pull it up on a screen and go through it. In fact, I'd be glad to get some stuff together and go through it again. I would like to go through your what was it, Isaiah 13 or what was it? Yeah, Judgment of Babylon. I would like to get some notes together and go over with that at another time too. But yeah, no, I don't believe at all in the rapture in lots of the New Testament. I don't. Day of the Lord is much different. The you know, God's kingdom is a totally different thing. It's not something that comes down out of the ground. In the Old Testament, the earth is here forever. I mean, this is the earth. The earth is the earth, and the only thing that really gets perfected is the people. I mean, um,
Well,
over time,
the New Testament teach just out of curiosity. So you mentioned that in the Old Testament, which I agree, but are you saying the New Testament teaches something different?
well, totally different end times. I mean, there's nothing in the Old Testament about a great tribulation that's ends with the Messiah coming and rapturing anybody or not rapturing anybody. Nothing.
What
Doesn't
about
say
Daniel
nothing
the
about
12th
a
chapter?
Messiah. Huh?
What about Daniel the 12th chapter starting at 1? A time of trouble like never before? That doesn't
Right. I
sound like
believe
a
that was
tribulation.
Jerusalem. hmm
But
I believe that was the
regardless,
fall
doesn't
of
that sound like
Jerusalem.
a tribulation though?
Pardon?
I'm saying regardless of what event in history we perceive it to be, you're telling me that doesn't sound like a time period of great tribulation?
It was. It was a great tribulation. Are you
Okay, so
kidding?
how can you
In
say you don't believe?
Jerusalem?
So how can you?
Yeah.
Okay, but then you just tell me you don't believe in the concept of a great tribulation?
No, I'm the Old Testament is is prophesying the tribulation of well, what do you mean tribulation? There's tribulation all through history. What the
Okay.
great
Let's
tribulation is
just clarify something real quick. Let's just clarify
yeah, I
something.
don't get the question. Yeah.
Not every time in the Bible where you see the word tribulation, it's not always talking about the great tribulation. I'll give you an example.
Right.
What is that? If you go to John the 16th chapter, Christ said that in me you'll have peace, but in the world you'll have tribulation, right? So on that context, even though it uses the word tribulation, it doesn't have to do with the end times. It's just
No,
talking
it
about
just means
hardships that
troubles,
you're
yeah.
facing. So going back to this, where we see this concept of a great tribulation in the end times, I'm showing you that we see a concept called a time of trouble that the world has never seen before. We see that in the Old Testament in Daniel the 12th
Right.
chapter. So
Yep,
I'm
yep.
asking, how does that, regardless of what time we perceive it that happened, I'm saying, how could we say that doesn't sound like a time period of the Great Tribulation that we see in the Old Testament?
Okay, because you're equating the great tribulation with the end times, which the Old Testament doesn't do. That great tribulation that they're talking, a time that has never been and never will be, was the fall of Jerusalem. I mean, just think about Israel got taken over, the temple was destroyed and burned to the ground, looted and everything else, and the Jews were pushed out. And as a matter of fact, just think about it, wouldn't even make sense. The the um the prophecy, how could the prophecy come at Jesus' time of the great tribulation or after Jesus' time, I should say? How could that even happen when the prophecy um how could Jesus have fulfilled anything? Because the prophecy in the Old Testament said that the Jews during this great tribulation, um, when all this happens, it's not that they're not talking about the end times great tribulation. They're talking about a big thing that's coming. Remember the first time the first temple got destroyed by Babylon. I mean, came and destroyed it. I mean, then they rebuilt it and everything. And that's the point where they're talking about a great time. They're talking about the destruction of Jerusalem that in the temple that's coming up. Um, and that's what it was. It's not equating with it be the end of the
Wait
time.
a second. I apologize to cut you off. I just found something. Going back to what you asked me, where do we find the rapture event in the Old
Yeah.
Testament? I
Uh-huh.
just found something. We'll read Daniel 12:1, and then it also makes a reference I want to focus on. It says, "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which stands for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as was not since there was a nation, even unto that time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, and everyone was not since there was a nation, even unto that time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, and everyone that should be found written in the book." Right. So it's saying at this time your people are going to be delivered. So I can go there and point to, we'll see, that's talking about a rapture event. What would you say about that?
So delivered and raptured, are you equating the two?
They can mean the same thing, because let me give you an example. What does the word rapture mean?
Catching away.
Okay, so
But
those
delivered,
people,
listen, if I want a pizza delivered, I don't want it caught away. It'll go away from me. Delivered
Okay,
means
so-
brought towards you.
okay, but here's the problem though. So say for an example, right? If someone's in a battle and an angel comes and delivers that person, is that a good thing?
Well, kind of
You agree
rescues
with
them.
that?
Mhm.
Right, but he still came down and grabbed them away though, right?
Not necessarily. The angel came down and helped Daniel. He didn't go anywhere.
What I'm saying is that, let me even read it again. Let's go back. It says, "And there shall be a time of trouble, such as was not since the nation was on the earth, even to the same time. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book." Right. So I'd go here and say that when it speaks about the people being delivered, this is talking about, as people will call, the rapture event. It's just using a different terminology.
And you think that is going to
Now,
happen in the future?
now, if you disagree, can you tell me what it is?
I don't see how you're equating delivered with. Listen, you know how many times God's people have been delivered in the Old Testament? There was no rapture.
Yeah, well, I mean, but going by that context, this scripture right here is a body bag, as I would call it, because it shows that there's a time called the tribulation, a time of great trouble that the world has never seen. Now going back here, so you'd say that Michael stood up for Israel in 70 AD?
I'm sorry, what?
Going by this verse, it says that Michael, the great prince, would stand and fight for the children of Israel. So you're saying that happened in 70 AD, right?
Yeah.
So why Jerusalem fall then, if an angel was fighting for Jerusalem?
If the angel was fighting for Jerusalem?
Yeah, I'll read it again. Daniel 12 says, "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which stands for the children of thy people." Right, so Michael's going to stand up and fight for them.
Right, and so he's standing for what people, though? God's people. Who are God's people? The Jews.
Exactly, the Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
So those weren't the people that were in Jerusalem?
Well, they got driven out.
Well, of course they got driven out, but I mean, they were there defending against the Romans before they got driven out, right?
Yeah, like 60 years before.
So who was fighting the Romans when 70 AD took place?
The Jews were.
Exactly. So God's
Right.
people were fighting.
And don't you think they were delivered when they were moved out of there? A lot of them were killed.
Well, they got scattered. That's when they got scattered.
Right. Okay, so that's a really good point. In the end times, God is going to gather his people, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. And that's what the Jews believe. Okay, so someday they'll all be gathered, and actually they're gathering right now, that as we speak. They have been coming back.
I disagree on that, because I believe the people.
Okay, so someday they'll all be gathered, and actually they're gathering right now, that as we speak. They have been coming back.
I disagree on that, because I believe the people over in Israel are phonies. I don't believe that those are the real Israelites, but that's.
I believe there are some real ones over there.
I mean, could
And
there
I
be
believe they are coming back.
Hold on, could there be a handful of real Jews there? Sure, out of the millions of people there.
Okay, well, where are the real Jews then?
Well, the real Jews are so-called blacks, but I mean this is an entirely other can of beans right
So you think they're them like black Israelites?
here. Yes.
The ones that scream at people and think they're the only ones going to heaven?
I would say they're the Israelites. Yes.
Those are God's people.
You disagree?
I totally disagree. The ones if they're God's people, why don't you join them? Why are you not with them?
But I am with them though.
You're one of the black Israelites?
I'm not in a camp, but I would consider myself to be a Hebrew Israelite. I'm a more civilized one, right? Me and you can have a civilized conversation, but I would consider myself to be a Hebrew Israelite.
So you think they represent God's people, the ones that scream on the street corners, and think that they're the only ones going to heaven? or
Well,
God's
when did
kingdom or whatever they think they're going.
here's the misconception. When did they say the only ones going to the kingdom of heaven, though?
They're kind of.
That's not the viewpoint. They don't believe that people just go to heaven when they die and that's it. That's not the viewpoint.
I really don't know what to believe, but the way all I've seen them wearing their purple is just screaming at each other.
Okay, well, off of the years that I have associated myself with them, I've only seen a handful of groups who will go out and scream at everybody. The other ones can actually have a relatively friendly conversation if you ask them a question. Again, I can't speak for every group, of course, but a lot of them, if you were to go up and have a conversation, they'll deal with you relatively friendly. But of
Yeah,
course,
I don't believe those are the real Israelites at all.
Okay, but who do you perceive them to be? Who are the real Israelites?
Well, the people that olive-skinned people that lived in the Middle East.
So you
They're over
believe the
there.
Israelites? You believe the Israelites are Caucasian or white
No, I
people?
think they're olive-skinned. The ones who fill up the Middle East right now.
Okay, but what about the verses that say the Israelites are black?
Where does it say that?
Job 30:30, Song
What
of
does that
Solomon
say?
1:5.
Can you read it? I don't know off the top of my head these verses.
Okay,
Can you read it?
give me a second. Give me a second.
Mm-hmm. Pin says apologist. Yeah, there's a apologist. Yeah, there shouldn't be a need for an apologist. I mean,
this is Job chapter 30, verse 30. It says, "My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat." Right, he said his skin is black.
Right. All of a sudden it's black because he's plagued with whatever. Why do you think he's complaining his skin is black all of a sudden? Didn't you think he noticed that when he was born?
I wouldn't say that he's complaining about it. He's just simply mentioning that his skin was black.
All right, Job 3:3, is that what you said?
No, I said Job 30, verse 30, but I got a better one for you.
Okay.
Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5. It says, "I am black, but calmly, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon." So he's saying that he's
of
black.
course there was black people. There was Ethiopians. Of course,
But he's
some
an
of them were
Israelite.
black.
He's an Israelite saying he's black.
Yeah, I'm sure there were some.
But okay, well here's the nail in the coffin. You regardless if you believe in Christ as the Messiah or not, we'll leave that aside for this particular mention here. What tribe was Christ of?
Judah.
Okay, good.
Southern tribe.
So, Judah. Well, the Judites are the head tribe. But anyway, now that we know that Christ is a Judite, I can show you where Christ is black in the Bible. So if I can show you where Christ is black, wouldn't that mean that the rest of the Judites would be black?
All the people from Judah.
He would look like his tribe, right?
Right. I mean, you're going to point to something in you're going to point to Revelation where it says that hair was white like wool. Don't tell me you're going to say that.
Wait, hold on a second. It says his hair was white like wool, but then it goes into describe the skin color.
Right, like bronze.
Like burned grass.
His
burned
feet.
Grass.
His feet.
Yeah.
How come only his feet are black?
Where does it say the rest of it's not?
Well, he said his feet were. Listen, if I told you my feet were green right now or blue, turning blue, why wouldn't I say my hands or my face is blue?
Okay, Kathy, here's the problem. Why did he only say the feet? Because the rest of Christ's body was covered in a garment, so he can only see his feet. That's why he only mentioned. I mean, is that not what it said? It said he had a garment on. Is that part not true?
Okay, so if I have a garment on, are only my feet white?
No, you're missing the point. The reason why he mentioned his feet being black is because the rest of the body was covered, so he couldn't comment on the rest of what he's seen because Christ was wearing a long
okay,
gown.
And you're talking about John the Revelator, right?
Yes.
Okay, why is all of a sudden he's surprised his feet are black if he just spent all that time with him and he knows what color he is? Why is he shocked his feet are black?
He simply
his feet are black. Well, he should have noticed that.
Okay, Kathy, hold on. He's simply describing as he appeared to him. So it's not that he's surprised. He's simply describing what he's seeing. Very simple.
Well, how would it help somebody if I'm going to describe? Okay, I'm going to tell everybody what my plumber looks like. Boy, he had black feet. You should.
If you were to describe me to somebody without showing them a picture, how would you do it?
Okay, by your picture. Well, yeah, he's a white man. He's white. I don't know. You look white. You look white, and you got brown hair.
Well, I'm a Mexican, but
okay, he's a Mexican-looking guy. Is just your face Mexican because I can only see your face, or is your hands Mexican, or is your
obviously the rest of my body is, but the point is still for Christ.
So if I only saw your feet, and you were a white man, and I described your race, I would say, well, I saw his feet, so I know he's white. He's not a black man. So,
I
okay, so
think
if I saw you and all I saw was your hands, say you came and you robbed me, all I saw was your hand with a gun and it was a white hand, well, I would tell the police, well, he was a white man. Are you sure his hand? Well, his hand was white. Maybe his feet were black. I don't know, but so
obviously you look like people aren't. Hold on a second. People are not walking around looking like rainbows. Obviously, their body looks the same.
right. So if you seen
Whatever
their
part of the
hand,
body.
you'd probably assume that the rest of their color body is the same color.
Well, of
If I
course.
seen your feet, I would assume the rest of your body is that color.
Of course, of course. So now I got to ask you: do you agree that Christ was black then, based on that?
No, not at all. Why? Because he
Okay,
had
so
black feet. Because his feet were color of bronze. In fact, listen, I have bronze stuff in my house. It's not black. I have
what
cast iron
what was
kettle
that?
that's black,
What?
but my
Okay,
things in
was
my
that
house that are
bronze?
bronze are not black.
Okay, what was that bronze burn?
Okay, bronze burned. Okay, that's still not black.
Because if you were to take some bronze and burn it, it becomes a black color. And
Listen, I
there's
could take a
plenty.
marshmallow and burn it, and it would be black.
Okay,
Why
but
would I even say anything? I mean,
I think you're missing the point. The point is this proves that Christ is black. Now,
I don't
regardless.
think at all.
Okay, now can you
His hair was
demonstrate?
white like wool because back then, well, like always, the wool had to be white. They started all wool white. That's why there was very little value in a spotted. If you have a white sheep with some black on it, well, the wool's going to come out gray. Okay, the goal of a sheep or a lamb was to have it all white. So when you see a lamb's hair, what color is it? It's white. It's white like a lamb's hair.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. It's simply describing he had white wool-like hair. There's no
It never
disagreement.
said wool.
It says
It
his
said
hair was
white.
white like wool.
Well, like okay, like a sheep, white like wool. The color of wool is white.
Okay, but what are you bringing us up to prove though? Like, where's the disagreement on his hair being that color? Where's the disagreement?
His hair is white. How does that make him black? A black person.
Oh my goodness. Because the color of his hair doesn't prove he's white or black.
Right.
I'm talking about when it describes his feet color. Obviously, the rest of his body was the same color as his feet, right? Now, as far as what color his hair is, that's a different conversation. That doesn't prove he's white or black, the color of his hair. So I didn't even go to that point to try to make an argument.
They didn't say it was the texture of wool. They said it was the color of wool, which is white.
It said it was. Okay, so what did his hair look like?
They're telling you that they're saying it's white like wool. It's like
Okay,
saying
so
white like snow or white like paper.
Okay, so what Christ's hair looked like? Did he have long flowing hair or was it short?
I have no idea. They don't tell us that.
But the Bible says it's a sin for a man to have long hair. Like, well, what's your view on Satan? But like, because people will tell me that Satan rebelled against God and was cast down to the earth.
I don't believe that for a minute. That's in Luke. And Luke, I don't believe that that's true at all. Satan does not rebel against God. Satan is one of God's angels.
Wait, where's that at in Luke?
Beheld, I saw Satan fall like lightning. He was cast down to earth or something. I don't subscribe to that at all.
Okay.
And then in Enoch, as you're talking about Enoch, where he rebelled against the took a third of the angels.
I don't believe in Enoch.
I don't either. I mean, some of it sounds good, but I don't subscribe to that either.
Okay. Now I don't believe that Satan rebelled against God. I don't
either. Not at all.
I was simply asking you your position on it.
Yeah. Well, no, I told you I don't believe he rebelled against them. The New Testament kind of goes that way. Like, no, I believe that he is to this day God's angel, and he's working for him to this day.
Okay,
he is the accuser.
Okay, so if you want to claim that about the New Testament, which I'd say it's taken out of context. So what would you say about what is that? What is that? Isaiah the 14th chapter? What would you interpret that to mean?
You got to tell me what it says.
So you're not familiar with Isaiah 14? The verse that speaks about Satan, how have thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? You're not familiar with that?
Oh, you're talking about the morning star?
When it speaks about
Lucifer, you got to tell me what you can't. If I could open the Bible too and say, okay, tell me about Matthew 6:47. Would you know? You got to tell me what you're talking about.
Okay.
I don't have every verse memorized. Tell me what verse you're talking about.
Okay. Now I'm talking about in Isaiah 14, the verse that speaks about Lucifer, how have thou fallen from heaven? So the only reason I brought this up is because you were going to the New Testament and trying to say, well, see, the New Testament paints it as if Satan, fell from heaven. Now I said I don't agree with that. I'd say that taken out of context. So then by the same line of logic, I said, well, wait, what would you say about Isaiah 14 when it speaks about Lucifer falling from heaven? I know what I perceive it to mean, but I'm simply asking you, what do you perceive?
Are you talking about I gotta look at I can't
I believe it could be verse 12. It could be mistaken on that, but it's in that chapter.
Actually, I don't believe that's Satan. I don't believe that's the same person.
Okay, but
I
I'm
don't believe
asking,
that Satan and Lucifer are the same person. I don't.
okay, now I'm simply asking you, what does it mean? Is all I'm asking.
Can I pull it up here? Hold on a second. Let's see. What did you say it was?
I believe
What
it's
verse?
verse 12, but I don't have it in front of me, but I know it's in
Of
that
what
chapter.
book?
Isaiah 14.
Isaiah?
14, yes.
Let me see what it says. I gotta look. All right, while that's coming up, because it's going to take a minute. When I'm on StreamYard,
Yeah,
it's really hard to pull anything
okay,
up.
I got it. I got it.
Um,
I was right. It was Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. It
Mhm.
says, How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? But what are your interpretation of that?
Actually, I think Lucifer and Satan are not the same. Like I said, Hasatan is the accuser. He's an angel who works with God. He's the accuser, as in Job. Okay, they have a friendly relationship. Lucifer, I do believe, is a different entity. I believe because if you look Lucifer up, Lucifer has a mom and a dad, brothers and sisters. I mean, that's not Satan. I don't know. What do you think? I don't think it's
Okay.
the same.
Well, I'll say this, that
But go ahead.
once again,
Tell me what you
the,
think.
the only reason I went here is because you were saying that the New Testament paints Satan as in, as if he's rebelling against God and that he fell from heaven. I was saying I disagree with that. So I simply went here and asked, well, what would you perceive this to mean? Right. And now that I hear your answer, I'll tell you what I understand. This is talking about the king of Babylon, because if you go, what is that, verse 4, I believe, it tells you that this whole parable is against the king of Babylon. So the Lucifer in this chapter is talking about the king of Babylon, right? But a lot of people will go
Okay.
here to try to show that Satan was cast down from heaven, right? So that's simply why I was
Right.
going to the view on.
Okay, so we agree on that. That's not Satan.
We'll agree on that. Now,
Yeah,
here's
I
the
don't.
next one.
Yep.